Welcome back to Hall Rod Guy Garage, and this is going to be another episode on this 65 Mustang. So stick with me through the intro, and I'll be back. Alright guys, another week, another mess to fix on this Mustang. So, got some things to do. I got the fender over here, stripped to the bare metal. This is the passenger side fender, it was all hacked up before. I'll flip it around and show it to you. We got Daisy down here in the floor supervising. But I've stripped the passenger side fender down to the bare metal. I went in here and done some more metal work along this crease that was in it. Welded up all these extra emblem holes and the rocker panel trim holes. And the emblem holes up here in the front. And I've done some hammer and dolly work all over this fender because it is mega rough. You remember our hole here, I got all that Bondo out of the back side of it. I went ahead and fully welded it in and seam sealed the back side of it. I went in here and added the reinforcement plate to the bottom side of our fender for its antenna hole, since this is a thin Taiwanese fender. So this fender is ready for some epoxy sealer, but first we got some other work we need to do. So ordered the frame rail repair patches to fix the bumper bracket holes, and I also ordered this bracket right here, which is down here, and it's going to go somewhere relative to this position here, and it looks like it fits fairly well. Once again, surprising for just a cheap piece. And once we get those in there, this and the other side over there, and get that hole on the inside of the frame over here patched, you know, this big old ugly dude, and that bracket on there, we should be able to sand this stuff down. And I did get some more epoxy primer. I'm going to re-epoxy the whole car since the body work's done on the rear half. That way it'll just seal that in. It'll give me a good idea of what I'm going to have. So hopefully this will be the end of the major welding and, replacing of metal on this car. So if you haven't, make sure you like these videos and comment down below in the comments, because it helps YouTube pick the stuff on their algorithm. It helps me knock a little labor time off his bill. So let's get busy putting this stuff on there. So let's start with the easy piece first. And there's going to be some measuring involved here, and I'm going to measure it off the 66. But first, we need to hold this bracket up here and figure out where our plug weld holes are going to be, in what position, so I can drill the holes in this new panel, and I can get this cleaned up and some weld-through primer put on it. So when you're trying to make a plug weld marks, you just need to figure out exactly where this panel is going to sit and the best way you can secure it. So it looks like we're going to have about 9 holes drilled here, and I can go ahead and strip this old paint off the back side of this and get these plug weld holes drilled in here. Well, got the high build primer on there. I'm gonna let that cure out, and then it'll be the time I need to go out here and start measuring off this 66 and make sure this bracket is in the correct spot. So let's go do that. And all right, I'm out here on the 66, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna measure from the core support up here to here, and I'm gonna measure from this bracket to the seam on the shock tower. That should give me my close measurements. So what I come up with was about 4.5 inches from the front of the core support and 33.5 inches from the firewall to the back of the bracket. So my primer's still not 100% dry, but it's getting close. So I'm just going to take and I'm just going to roughly clip this thing up on here with my vice grips. And I'm going to measure from this seam to here, which is pretty darn close. Let me check it back here. Pretty close. It needs to be moved back just a scotch. Which this bracket can always be adjusted slightly with the hammer. So we're pretty close to where we need to be, I do believe. That is 4.5. Here to the right side of that bracket is 33.5. And it looks like exactly where we need to be. And before I get too deep, I'm going to have to measure this off the top too. So I'm going to spot it down here and put one plug weld here in the bottom. And then I'm going to make my measurements again at the top. Everything looks beautiful. And at times you may have to take a body hammer and just make sure these flanges sit flat. And alright guys, got my 2 plug welds up here. It's going to be hard to see, but you can see the penetration here, here, and here. So you want to make sure whenever you weld this stuff on, guys, that you got good weld penetration. If not, this bracket will not stay in place. So there it is installed. I'm going to stick the fender on here just to verify I'm correct in my measurements. We'll go from there. And all right, guys, we're on to our second portion here. Now that bracket's on there, is the bumper mount bolt holes. So this panel pretty much replaces the whole outside of the frame rail here. We don't need to replace the whole outside of the frame rail. Even though this looks rusty, it's good solid metal right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut a small patch out of this, okay? And we're going to use a small patch to replace the bumper mount holes in here like that. And a lot of you probably wondered, well, why don't you just go ahead and replace this whole panel since there is some pitting in the other? Well, there's 2 reasons. One, the car is still sitting on all 4 jack stands, or all 6 jack stands. And the frame rail's not rotten. It's just got a little pitting and a little rust on it out here. And actually putting this patch in will take care of about 95% of that. So let me get to cutting and I'll show you where we end up with. Well, I cut me an access hole. And a lot of you wonder why I don't use air hammer. So let's use one for a change. done real great in it. And alright guys, I got it cut out roughly. I got the old nut plate removed, which you can see what kind of condition that was in after they got in there and murdered everything. Pretty poor. You can also see I got some rust pin holes that opened up. I'm gonna have to put a patch panel where they cut that open all the way up to the core sport. This in here seems to be good and solid. It's just pitted. Like I said, I still got to remove this lip. I got to grind these off. Unfortunately, our little Harbor Freight angle grinder that is stood with us through the test of time and has literally done this whole car for $14 has died. So I'm gonna have to get another one of them. As you can see back here towards the back, it started, the brushes are gone, and it's just, she's dead. I do not like this one, so I will be going promptly and get me another one of these and some more cut off discs, because that is the last one I have. But when you get this cleaned up a little more, I'm gonna get the rest of that flange off there. We'll wire brush in here real good, and I'll let it sit with some Osfo on it while I go get another grinder. Well, get all that wire brushed, cleaned up pretty fair. So I'm gonna take some Osfo and treat these thick rust pits and stuff in here. Hopefully do some good in that area. At least kill some of this ugly. Go ahead, get some of this on the outside out here too. You're sure not gonna hurt anything in this situation. Well, it's a couple hours later. Got this new grinder, $9.99, and I bought one of their paint guns that was on their discount table. It was supposed to be a reman, but I asked the girl at the register if it had everything in the box that it was supposed to have, and she said yes, it should. Get it back? Nope. So I'm gonna have to drive back across town to Harbor Freight yet again for today, and return this, new reman paint gun that I bought. And I think I'm just gonna pay the difference and get a new one. But she said it only had a 5-day warranty anyway, so might as well get the new one and I can get a warranty on it, just in case it's junk, because that was not cheap. But this is. And hopefully it'll finish the car up. So let me get this safety junk off here and I'll be back. Alright, I know a few of you probably worried that I didn't take that end cap off. I went ahead and decided to. I just couldn't find to imagine what all was in here. This is a high rust area in these cars, especially because your batteries leak acid over time, and that acid gets down in between the seams and gets down there in the frame rail and corrodes it away, along with your dirt, salt, and sand. So what I done, I come in here, I dressed everything up, took the rest of this flange off, like I said, this front cap, flat disced it, wire brushed it, Osfo'd it, and I sprayed some weld-through primer. The weld-through primer does look a little bit different because it's a different brand of what I've been using. This is Transtar Zinc weld-through primer. So I wanted to put something super high quality in this frame rail, and I sprayed it back as far as I could get it in there to hopefully help with any of these issues in the future. Ideally, if I wouldn't have got these patches and I'd known this was like this in here, I would just got the whole frame rail section and replaced it before putting this apron in. But here we are. So to get my patch, what I done, this is the panel I cut out right there. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna cut this straight right here, straight across. And then we can fit it as needed in here. But I'm probably gonna take, after I cut this off, I'm gonna cut me a plate. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the inner frame rail out a little bit more up through here, and I'm gonna plate it on the inside, and then I'll cut a patch to fit that hole on the outside. Just gonna add a little more structural integrity to this area because it's pretty poor in there. So let me get busy doing that. All right, as you see, I got my patch cut. I'm gonna test it here just to make sure everything lines up great. I want to make sure it's flush up here at the front, and it is. One thing I see I do not like about this patch is the lip right here at the bottom is narrower. It won't hurt anything, but if you know what you look for, you'll notice it's been done. So I got this mopped up, got it cleaned up. So I'm gonna spray some weld-through primer on the back side, let this dry, and then we'll work on this inner patch. Well, I got my reinforcement plate in there. It's time to put on the end patch. And then we can go to the engine bay and start fixing that hole in there. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hold this up here loosely before I start clamping it because I did knock this down just slightly. I'll have to go in there and tap it up, but I'm gonna hold it in there, weld my ends. And I'll probably hit my spot plug welds on this end, but then I can use hammer to fit the rest of it. And after a little grinding and a little primer, you can barely tell it's been replaced. I tapered that taper down where it had that little lip right there. I tapered that in with the flap disc just to kind of line it up. And for those of y'all worried about I was just going to plate the inside of this and not do anything. That plate is actually off about a half inch or quarter inch from the outside of the frame rail. I put it in there as a reinforcement. Since we lost the original nut plate, that was a reinforcement plate on itself inside this frame rail. So now I got to go in here, I got to cut out the inside a little bit, and we'll make a patch for it. We'll go from there. Just felt better to put some kind of reinforcement back in there. That frame rail is not in the best of shape on the inside. But like I said, all we can do is treat it with OSFO, wire brush it, treat it, spray some kind of high zinc primer like the weld through primer on it. Put the reinforcement back in it and hope for the best. But the good thing is now, at least you can bump you can do the thing on this side. Bolt the bumper bracket back to the frame rail. Which I don't know if we're putting the front bumper back on the car. I've kind of tossed him some ideas of different ways to make this thing look, and he's currently up in the air about that. So we'll find out more later. So let me get this inside cut out, get a patch made, and then I'll be back. And all right, hopefully you can see that gap between that reinforcement plate. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you another, I've showed this before, but I'm going to show you another easy way to make a patch. You know, I don't know exactly what the shape is here, so I'm going to take this piece of paper and just kind of use my dirty finger to get my patch dimensions, just like that. So I'm gonna cut this out with a pair of scissors. I'm gonna stick it up on there and see how it fits. So got my piece of paper cut out. So hold it up in here and kind of see where we're at as far as shape goes. And we're pretty close. Might do a little more trimming on it, and I transfer it on the metal. And all right, got an equivalent gauge piece of metal right here. I held my piece of paper up there. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to rough cut this out. I'll use a flat disc around it rest the way up. Well, I lost the footage of me welding this up. Actually, my phone was over on the charger because it's about dead. So I'll flip it around. I got the patch welded in. I used a magnet to hold that patch, you know, floating in the hole. So got it welded in there. I'm about to knock down the welds with a flat disc and cleaned up. So let's get to that. Up here sleeping. Daisy, you sleeping? Okay, I'll leave you alone then. So let's get to grinding them welds down. And it at least looks better than all the hacked up hole mess that they had before. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time making these patches pretty. That is under the battery tray, and there got a radiator, the radiator hose, all that stuff right in that area. So, you know, it's a very busy area of the car. It's also a very hard area to grind because you get everything in the way. So I got it smoothed down pretty good, get a little primer sprayed on it. Might run a little seam sealer over a couple of edges just to smooth them out so they'll visually appear okay, even though they're structurally okay. Because that patch is 100% welded in. Those pinholes we've seen before, I cut most of them out. I welded the other two up. Welded it pretty easy. So got the passenger side frame rail repaired. So we got to put a driver's side patch in about like we did the outer. I do not believe we're going to have an issue like we had on the driver's side or on the passenger side. Hopefully. So let me get to, you know, doing that thing. I'm not going to bore you with watching me cut all spot welds and, you know, prepping it. It's going to be the same as this other side, just on the other side. So I'll hop back in here in a little while. Hopefully in this video we can get the car in some more epoxy sealer. They did not have any more black, so I had to get gray this time. So my main goal for this week is to get from the doors forward in epoxy. That means under the hood too. So I'm going to go ahead and try and get all these patches in here. So let me get to it. All right, I figured I'd pop back in here. I cut my access hole. What I was originally just going to patch on the other side, which is just where the nut plate is. So I got it cut open. Inside of this frame rail don't look too awful hot in here either. Hey, I wire brushed it. I got it all coated in OSPO. I'm gonna let it sit overnight and dry. I'll come back in here tomorrow morning, wire brush it again, and if it looks a lot better, I'll spray some weld-through primer up in here. We'll get our patch put in, and we should be able to make some kind of progress. In reality, this car really needed a new chassis. I'm not real happy with what I'm seeing inside the frame rails. What I've seen inside under the floor pans look great. Same in the rear section. Just had a little rust back here at the very back. But we got quite a bit of rust up here in the front. The metal's still good and solid, it seems, and good and thick. It's just real scaly and nasty. So all I know to do right now is to treat it, get our nut plates put back in there, get it sealed back up. And towards the end of this project, I guess I'll go in here with some rust encapsulator with something like from Eastwood. It's got the wand on it and a 360-degree sprayer. Run in all these frame rails and spray the inside of them. Because ultimately, that's what's going to be the killer of this car, is this hidden rust that there's really no way to access it without blowing the whole thing apart or changing just about everything on the car. So I got that old nut plate out. That's kind of an extra reinforcement inside them frame rails. It was rotten, very easy to extract with chisel, obviously. So I'm kind of at the point where I can't do nothing until that stuff does what it's supposed to do. And, you know, I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow, which will be mere seconds for you, be overnight for me. I'll obviously be wearing probably a different color shirt and be a lot cleaner. So, until then, guys, I'll see you at the next tomorrow.
The next day.
All right, it's the next day. Our asphalt's dried out inside this frame rail, so let's take a look and see what it looks like. Got Daisy over there and the other side over there. But as you can see, our asphalt's done a pretty decent job of converting that. I'm gonna spray a little weld-through primer in there. Call it good. At least a coating from the asphalt and a high zinc weld-through primer should ward off any future rust from being in there. Not gonna say it's gonna stop it, but it's not gonna hurt anything. And like I said before, we're probably gonna have to take something like an Eastwood internal frame coating and spray this whole car front to back inside subframe rails. Most because unless I put whole rails in it, it's never gonna be perfect. So let's not forget what the inside of the roof structure looks like. So it is what it is at this point. So try to save a few dollars here and there. Let's go. So as you can see, I got my patch marked. What I done, I took that old piece, laid it on top there, sprayed a little paint around it. So I'm gonna get that cut out now. We can go from there. All right, we got our panel right here. Got it fitted up pretty decent. So let me get this welded in here. I'm not gonna let y'all watch that. So I've done it on the other side, putting that piece in. Same process. So let me get this welded in there and I'll be back. And got that patch welded in there. Got it burned in there good. It's good and flat. Now I just need cleaned up a little bit with flat disc. Spray a little primer over top of it, and then I can go getting ready to prep all this stuff. Spray some more epoxy primer on it. So I went yesterday and got a gallon of high build epoxy, which I'm going to spray over this TrendStar stuff that everybody was so worried about. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run over the car with a long block, make sure everything looks pretty good roughed in, scuff it down under the hood with some 120 grit, tape up the vent windows. I'm going to spray the outside of it. So let me get busy starting to prep. several hours later, and I've got the car roughly blocked out, wiped down. What I'm going to tape up is taped up, so I'll flip it around. I'll show you a few things. Then I'm going to get to mixing some paint and spray it because it looks like it's fixing to rain. So got our fender wiped down, got the car blocked out again roughly. I went ahead and fixed the corners of the roof up here. Most of the bad up here blocked out just with the initial epoxy. Got it scuffed down under the hood good and wiped down with thinner. Wipe the wheel wells down. And got this side. And got the back blocked out. So keep in mind, guys, I sanded most of that Transtar primer back off. So I'm gonna get the Transtar high build epoxy mixed up, get some paint sprayed, and then I'll be back here in just a few. So it's about an hour later, and I've got it all sealed up. So if you haven't yet, make sure you like this video and comment down below because it helps YouTube pick this up on their algorithm. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. And if you are, I greatly appreciate you guys. So let me flip the camera around and we'll walk around the car. So we got 3 heavy coats of the high build epoxy on there, which this fender's still going to be body worked some. It's not been body worked at all. That's just on there as a sealer. Spray some guide coat so that way when I scuff it off, I know exactly where the body work needs to go. I went ahead and guide coated the car too. It's going to need a little bit more blocking, which I anticipated, along with the roof up there. But under the hood, it's all sealed in epoxy. And come Monday, it'll be ready to be scuffed back down and some black paint sprayed under here. So hopefully that'll keep any rust at bay. I went ahead, when I wiped all this stuff down with thinner under here, I went ahead and sprayed all the nether regions on both sides in here, just to make sure everything at least had a chance of survival. So the roof, got it built up pretty good. Hopefully the rest that'll block out with this. Same here. There's a little bit more blocking to do. A few more things to fix. But, you know, for the first coat of real primer on it, it looks pretty decent. So before you jump down in the comments and talk about how wavy it is, this is literally the first real coat of primer on this car. The Transtar stuff I sprayed on was rattle can. It was just something to kind of cover it up as I worked and make sure stuff, you know, didn't get contaminated with dirt or oil or, you know, fingerprints, because this shop, people do have a tendency to touch things. In fact, I had some people come while I was trying to spray paint and running up and down the sides of it. Got a few places in it from that. But I think it's going to dry out pretty good, and should, after one more good blocking with this and another coat high build, we should be ready to spray some paint on the body. But until then, I've got to get the fender extensions fitted. I've got to get the fenders back on it and body worked. Same with the hood, the bottom of the trunk, and all that fun stuff that everybody forgets about. So while it looks like we've made a milestone, there's still a ton of work to do. I do feel a little bit better. It's all one color again. And hopefully I can get under the hood painted and get the motor back in it. And at that point, I can put the wheels back on it and put it back on the ground, which means it'll be a car again. So, makes pretty good progress today. So, if you haven't yet, I know I just asked a few minutes ago, hit that like button, comment down below. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button because it is absolutely free. And if you are a subscriber, I would greatly appreciate you guys. So until the next video on this 65 Mustang, I'll see you at the next video. Thanks for watching.